Well, we hope we're never in an emergency situation when we're out here hiking in the wilderness. But what if we are? Are you prepared? Let's check it out. As I explained in a previous video, it's super important that we're prepared when we're out hiking to be out here for 24 hours, just in case. It's why we bring our essential gear with us. And so today I want to talk about two important things: how to set up a shelter and how to get a fire going. Okay, so let's set up the scene. For whatever reason, I find myself in a position where I have to set up camp for the night. So what do? First thing to take a look at what I brought with me and what I can use to set up a shelter.
Shelter, shelter, shelter.
Now, as part of my 10 essential items, I always bring a shelter, a tarp. Or you should know maybe how to create a shelter, how to build a shelter out of natural materials. Let's take a look at my pack. Brought along plenty of water. That's important. I have a little sit pad. I can use this maybe to put on the ground later. Got some gloves to keep me warm. I have another layer. Keep me warm at night. But in here is my shelter. Now I want to show you a simple way to set up a tarp shelter. It's called the plow. Let's check it out. Well, the first thing we want to do is check out the wind. See which way it's blowing. Okay, so the wind's coming like right up my face here. This is how we want to set up our plow so that the opening part of the plow is away from the wind. So let me show you. So I need some place to tie it off, and I'm going to use this tree right here. And then the other end's going to go over here. And I'm going to use whatever supplies that came with this. Again, it's an emergency, so we're not looking to set up the Taj Mahal here. Look at my stake bag. And my ropes are in here too. And then I have my tarp. I have a bowline on one end, and I'm going to use this toggle. I'm going to tie a little hitch around this tree. Then I grab one corner of the tarp and I do the same thing here. Make a loop like this. Bring it through there. Take this end, grab it like this. Forms a loop there. Stick the toggle in there. And tighten it up. Now here's why I bring a tarp with me. The scenario usually doesn't present itself in the perfect situations all the time, which means that you might not be in a place where you have materials, natural materials, to create a shelter. And so pulling this out of your pack, you have an instant shelter as long as you have a couple sticks. Maybe you can use your trekking pole instead of this tree to hold up this front end. Maybe the ground isn't great, so you can use some rocks with your ropes to tie down the three corners. So you never know what kind of materials you're going to have available to you. So carry a small tarp with you. You also may not have the time to create a shelter from natural materials. You may end up deciding that you need to shelter in place, when the sun is setting. So you don't have hours to figure this out. This just takes a few minutes to set up this simple little plow shelter, giving you time to go ahead and collect some firewood and do everything else you have to do to settle in for the night. Now, if you're in a place that has a pretty wet soil or cold ground, you're going to want to lay down some materials inside of your shelter to insulate you from the ground, to keep the moisture off of you and to keep your heat from dissipating from your body. So grab some pine boughs, grab some leaves that are dry, some whatever other materials. You might lay down a bunch of sticks and then throw some leaves over the top of that. Anything to insulate you from the ground. If you have time to do that, you should.
Time for a little fire in my life.
The second most important thing to do is to have some kind of fire. Now, fire is going to give you warmth. It's going to give you a place to cook. It's going to provide you with perhaps a place to send smoke signals, to make some smoke, to let people know that there's a human here. So fire is important. So it takes time to process firewood. Sometimes maybe even a couple hours, depending on where you're at. I'm in a place right here where there's plenty of firewood, so it'll take me like maybe a half hour. But be careful you don't work so hard that you build up a sweat, because as it gets cooler at night, that sweat's going to make you colder. So just take as much time as you can, slow down a little bit, but gather enough firewood. Now, if you can find rocks to put around your fire pit, you should do that. If not, just clear the debris so you don't start a forest fire or anything crazy. Then, of course, as part of the essential gear that you brought with you, you're going to have a fire starting kit. You're going to have a lighter, you're going to have flint and steel, you're going to have whatever you brought with you to start your fire. Here's my trusty kit. Go watch the other video. Now, you're probably not going to want to start this fire until you absolutely have to, just to preserve the wood that you collected and to make sure that you don't run out in the middle of the night and have to go forage for some more wood just to keep the fire going. You probably want to keep this fire going all night. One way to make a nice long-lasting fire is to lay down some larger logs on the bottom, followed by crisscrossing this with a little bit smaller logs. Just keep following that pattern, making a little crisscross kind of a log cabin look. A little bit smaller sticks, and so on, until you get a place where you can put your tinder right on top. Don't make it like crazy high. What will happen is this will burn down instead of up. It'll burn slower and it'll last a lot longer. So if you can, build a structure like this to start your fire. You'll have one that lasts you a good amount of hours for the night. There, now this is ready for me to start. I'll go ahead and put my couple of cotton balls up here. And I'll go ahead and strike a spark on it when I'm ready to start the fire tonight. And again, as long as you have time, just keep collecting as much firewood as you can.
Oh, please, more!
Of course, other items you should have out here are food, enough for 24 hours, as much water as you can carry, and enough clothing layers to keep you warm, especially a rain jacket to keep the water off of you. And if it's warm and dry enough to where you don't need to wear the rain jacket, you could always use it as a moisture barrier between you and the ground. The most important thing that you need to do while you're out here is don't panic. Take your time, sit, remember where you came from, how you might have gotten lost, whatever the situation is. Just collect your thoughts, create a plan that's well thought out, and that'll get you through. Panicking is what gets people in the most trouble out here. If you have to stay the night, that's fine. You have a shelter now, you have a fire to keep you warm, so you have the most important stuff: layers of clothes, food, water, fire, shelter. And remember, in a previous video when I looked over the 10 essentials, a whistle comes real handy. Once in a while when you're out here, if you have to spend the night, blow your whistle 3 times. Do that every 15 minutes, do that every half hour, do that whenever. Do that often enough so that if rescuers are nearby, they can hear you. And of course, study up. The U.S. Forest Service has a great site that lists what you should do if you're ever lost and you need to set up for the night. They have some great tips out there. And I'll have the link down below. Alright, so that was just a quick review of the 2, I think, most important things you need to do if you ever have to stay the night out here. I'm sure you have other ideas. Go ahead and write those down below in the comments. Let's get a discussion going and help each other out to be prepared for, in the event that we have to spend 24 hours out here, that we've helped each other along the way. Alright, so I'm David on Earth. Thanks for coming to the channel. Subscribe, like, all that stuff. I'll see you on the trail.